Hello, I'm Dr. Kevin M. Washburn, and I am thrilled to be part of the International Virtual Summer Showcase for Canva librarians and teachers. And today, I'm going to talk about recognizing your brand and creating a style guide. If you're part of this group, then you already have discovered how amazing Canva is for educators. Being able to use the numerous templates, the high quality design elements that help us to be able to build excellent resources for our web pages, our lessons, our resources that we share with students. And so today, I want to help you understand how just using um, some design concepts to help you think about your brand and developing those elements into a style guide will help you be able to improve your virtual and reputation and advocate as advocacy as part of the work that you do. So let's go ahead and get started here. So for this presentation today, there'll of course be an introduction, and then we'll talk about recognizing preference and patterns. We'll look at branding and style guides. We'll consider issues related to accessibility and readability, and then conclusion. So first, as part of the introduction, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Kevin Washburn. I have a doctorate in educational leadership from Western Carolina University, and I'm currently the director of library programs for DC Public Schools. I'm also an adjunct lecturer for the University of Maryland for the school librarianship program, as well as I am in the process of returning to my alma mater, UNC Greensboro, as an adjunct faculty member. So, in our work today, in our discussion, I want you to think about all of the cool and amazing stuff that you've either seen or that you've designed yourself using Canva or other instruments, and how you like to be able to use that information to showcase the message that you're trying to send to your audience. So in this case, take for instance this presentation here. For me, I like softer images and I like to use graphics as much as possible as compared to photographs. In addition, I think representation in our message is incredibly important. So for this particular design template that I chose from the Canva template database, I particularly focused on for my style with very set font types. So I do for headings and subheadings, I use all caps. And in this case, for the major headings, I use VM HANA as a font type. And as well as I use for subtitles, as well as text box messaging, Canva Sans. And so the size of the font type depends on the availability of space within the design concepts I'm working with. So of course, all this comes together in the sense of a style guide to help you be able to showcase your message and have your message be received by your viewer in an effective way. So let's talk a little bit about preferences. Preferences are part of our human ability to recognize patterns. And so, for instance, recognizing that you, each of us are going to have elements that we're going to lean toward in terms of that it's attractiveness, it's pleasing to the eye, its ability to send us a, an image or impression that's warm and inviting. Those are the type of concepts that happen within the creative elements. And these are also part of the concepts related to that are used frequently within the marketing world. So preferences and patterns have very specific components related to how you or that you are working and designing your elements for potential resources that you're going to use within instruction or that you're going to use in social media. You want to make sure that these elements come together in a way that it represents who you are for your brand. Okay, and particularly when we think about our experiences, our culture, things that represent the way that we view the world. So recognizing that as we're applying these elements, one is not necessarily bad or better than the other. The components really are kind of like a flavoring of who you are and who you represent. That's the beauty of having a diverse society, is that we get to bring the best of who we are to the world. So, needless to say, by developing your brand and creating a style guide, there are many benefits that come from this. It will enhance your reputation. That is, people recognize you by your either logo or your hashtag or your branding elements. The identity associated with this helps you also to improve your community and representation. Whether you're in a librarian role or a teaching role, we have a very set focus in our career and profession. And so advocating for this is often a big part of what we have to do to ensure that we're getting the best opportunities made available to us. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, is work efficiencies. By knowing those elements that you lean toward and developing some documentation, that becomes part of your branding and style guide kit, your toolkit, will help you as you navigate the process of finding and selecting and choosing those elements that you want to include over time. So, what exactly is branding, and particularly in our arena, which is in education? So, how are we going to leverage your logo or image to ensure that you are bringing across the very best message to your audience? So, branding is the ability to have recognition, and it can come with an association of images. It can come with an association of symbols, and the combination of those and the layout of those can be seen as a very specific branding element. I'm sure many of you recognizing some major um, products out in the world. They use various branding to help them to promote their products, and some of those may actually be copyrighted, and because the trademarking and using them in a business enterprise, is very protective territory. Well, in our world, we can use those similar kind of strategies to ensure that we're getting the widest berth of audience recognition and also credibility for the message and or resources that we're developing or sharing. So how do you go about creating your style guide? So first, it's going to begin with some self-discovery. You're going to take a look at the things that you do day to day and kind of create yourself a little checklist or order list of those things that you prefer to do when you're making decisions about designs. So in this case, do you have a logo or do you have a logo imaging that you like to use, a representation? Um, is it reflective of who you are and what you like to do in terms of the messaging you share? Are there a set group of images that you like to use over time? Those may be associated with your institution. it might be associated with your profession. Are there colors that you like to use in terms of the way that you present your message? Font types and font sizes are also very important. You know, depending on the product that you're designing, those things may change a little bit, especially the sizing component. But in general, the consistency is what supports the viewers receiving your message effectively. As you're going through and looking at this information, the ability to organize this into a resource that you can recall or refer to is incredibly important. So whether you're using Google Drive and using a Google Doc to maintain this list or some other kind of online repository system, it's important that you begin by first pulling this information together into a resource that you can refer to. It may be that you even may need to share this, especially if you are going to be working on program resources that others need to have access to. It may be that you need to refer to this for the process of receiving some funds for a program or a grant. So the opportunities to be able to share this information can be very wide and appropriate at keeping up with it. Next, I want to talk to you a little bit about accessibility. All right. And so, accessibility and readability is very important. And so, with these elements, we want to make sure that all of our viewers and users have the ability to see the information and be able to interpret the information within the very best possibility. So in this case, for our learners who are visually and are learning impaired, we want to make sure that we utilize reputable online tools to help us with that. One of the ways we can do that is throughout the presentation, I've utilized a variety of resources. Whenever you see the light bulb, that if you click on the light bulb, when you have this, that will take you to a resource that will help you. And so in this case, I'm recommending the usability tool checker from Harvard University. And then at the end of the presentation, I also has a list of references that's going to be great that for you to look and review as well. Okay. And then, of course, readability. If you're, in our professional area in education, reading and literacy is a big part of our ability to ensure that we're helping our learners improve and be able to um, achieve their life goals in terms of um, being an informed society. And so with readability, your design concepts are very important with that. Thinking about, the spacing of your text, if you're going to be having lots of words and the titling, how do they look in terms of their visibility? Um, the rows of text, are they crowded? Do they keep the viewer from being able to have their eye navigate successfully along the page? These are all important aspects to think about as you are considering your product. So I'm going to go back and look at the resources that I've shared throughout this. So on this particular resource, creating a style guide, there's a hyperlink here that goes to the Canva style guide page. This is going to be a really useful resource because um, you'll want to be able to um, call on this to help you organize the information that you're thinking about. And so Canva has done a wonderful job helping you to think about your style and branding and also be able to improve upon that. Um, Fortunately, hyperlink's not working in this mode, but I'm sure you'll be able to visit that website and take full advantage of it. So in conclusion, creating a style guide is a wonderful way for you to be able to share your passion, your messaging, and to improve your ability to have, the way that the world sees you. And so I encourage you to think about your design elements and to be able to spend time um, with this in terms of organizing your preferences into a style guide documentation or tool. I welcome you to follow me. I don't use a lot of social media platforms, but I am available on LinkedIn and Facebook under KM Washburn1. Just to share with you a little bit about logos, this logo up here in the left-hand side of the screen is is my preferred logo when I'm creating um, printed documentations, manuals, handbooks, letters, and so that's and the thing about this logo is that it for me it's a personal branding message. It encompasses my own desire for creativity. It's important in terms of the way I perceive myself in this image, and so I'm sure you have similar kind of desires yourself. Last but not least, I want to share with you a reference list of the resources I used today. So the first one came from American Library Association using branding behavior to elevate your school library, and this was an article that appeared in ALA News in September of 14th of 2023. If you visit this article, you'll see a great um, uh, resource. It's about to the recent publication of related to elevating school library programs, and I'm very excited about this publication. It's a recommended resource to include in your professional resources for your within your library or in your classroom. The next resource was Showing Yourself Building Library Credibility Through Brand Identity. It's an article that appeared in American Library Magazine this past May, and it was by Susan Ballard and Sarah John Kelly. Wonderful, wonderful folks to follow on social media if you're not familiar with them. And of course, here is the citation for the Canva How to Create a Visual Brand Style Guide that I mentioned earlier, and then the link to the Harvard Digital Accessibility Accessible Testing Tools and Practices resource that I recommend. And then last but not least is my LinkedIn profile page. So if you have questions, connect with me online and I'm happy to explore the possibilities of these resources with you. Take care and have a wonderful day, everybody.